Welcome, it is Mitch. I'm on YouTube. If you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel as we try to build this thing up. Green Bay Packers offseason in full swing. Staff decisions, front office decisions pretty much cemented in at this point. Roster decisions looming. Of course, there could be and probably will be some cap casualties for Green Bay. What I wanted to do in this video today is look back at Green Bay's rookie draft class and talk about the impact they did or did not have in year one and sort of foreshadow what could lie ahead in year two. And I'm piggybacking off a couple of articles I saw, one on NFL.com and one on ESPN.com, where both outlets came out and they ranked each team's rookie draft class based off the impact they had on their team this past season. And the reason it jumped out at me, and it'll probably jump out to you, is because NFL.com ranked Green Bay's draft class and the impact that it had on last year's team dead last. 32nd out of 32 teams. And ESPN.com wasn't much kinder, a little bit better. It was somewhere around like 25th or 26th. And I think it's very important to take those rankings in, but to not view them as a situation where NFL.com or ESPN is looking at the draft class for Green Bay and saying Matthew Golden, Anthony Belton, Savion Williams, Baron Sorrell, all these players that were part of the draft class for Green Bay last April when obviously the draft was in Green Bay. But to not look at them and say that these outlets are saying bust. They're merely saying year one, the impact just wasn't there. And when I sat back and thought about it, I was like, it wasn't for most of the draft class. And then you look at some of these other teams and you're like, okay, the impact was there for a lot of these rookies. But to see Green Bay ranked dead last by NFL.com, somewhat jarring, somewhat eye-opening. You take it with a grain of salt, but it's important to provide context and to dive into why this happened. And we can start with Matthew Golden. And if you want, here, a brief summary of what NFL.com said when ranking Green Bay literally dead last, their rookie class, and the impact that it had or obviously did not have last year. It said on NFL.com, with the 2025 draft taking place in Green Bay, the Packers finally scratched in a 23-year itch, spending a first-round pick on a wide receiver for the first time since they took Javon Walker back in 2002. Outgoing team president Mark Murphy announced the selection in the shadow of Lambeau Field, working Packer backers into a frenzy, blah, 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 blah. And then it says, talks about Matthew Golden. It says, Golden immediately appeared on stage to soak it all up. In hindsight, that feels like the highlight of the Whiteout's first year with the Pack. Okay, Golden did finish the season on a high note, catching 4 passes for 84 yards, his first NFL touchdown in Green Bay's wildcard weekend loss at Chicago. In weeks 8 through 18, though, the rookie wide receiver caught a grand total of 11 passes for 112 yards. The numbers are the numbers with Matthew Golden. But when he had the ball thrown his way in his rookie season, he made plays. He stepped up. He delivered. I'll be honest, there were like never, ever any moments, any sequences, any individual plays with Matthew Golden where he made some sort of catastrophic error or dropped a pass and you were like, oh my gosh, what the hell is he doing? What the hell was that? Golden's biggest problem, to me, was that he landed on a team that always brings along pass catchers at a super, super slow speed, especially in their rookie campaigns, and brings them along at a slow speed when it comes to feeding them the pill, throwing them the pigskin, whatever descriptor you want to use. And you thought, well, some of these pass catchers, wide receivers they've taken in recent years that weren't first-round picks but were higher picks. You know, Christian Watson was round 2, and you go all the way back to like Devontae Adams, Jordy Nelson, Randall Cobb, all these wide receivers. It's like now they've taken one in the first round for the first time since 2002. Maybe it'll be different. It wasn't. Matthew Golden missed a couple of games, but he played damn near most of the season, and he finished the season with as many targets as Josh Jacobs. In 14 games, Matthew Golden had 44 targets. In 15 for Josh Jacobs, he had 44 targets. And just as glaring, Tucker Kraft, who only played half the year, Tucker Kraft played 8 games. Really, it was like 7.5 before tearing his ACL against Carolina halfway through. Tucker Kraft in 8 games finished with as many targets as Golden did in 14 games. All 3 of those players, Golden, Jacobs, and Kraft, had 44. And when you break it down, it's hard to It's hard to justify your running back having as many targets as your first-round draft pick wide receiver, and it's hard to justify your tight end who only played half the season because he tore his ACL having as many targets as your rookie first-round pick wide receiver who played damn near the whole season. I don't look at Matthew Golden's rookie season and say, bust, horrible pick, what was Green Bay thinking? Not even close. I look at a guy who I'm giddy about. I look at a wide receiver, I'm like, there's a lot of tools in place there. There's a lot of traits that pop out on the page. And statistically, you look, Matthew Golden ranked near the top of the charts for all wide receivers, not just rookie wide receivers, when it came to separation rate. And his separation rate when targeted was just as good. Matthew Golden showed a lot with a little on his plate in his rookie season. And so when I look and I see NFL.com has Green Bay ranked dead last with rookie draft class impact in year one, you have to provide some context with it. Matthew Golden was not a focal point of this offense. And quite frankly, it's even more head-scratching when you consider Jayden Reed, who is a primary target in this passing game, exited on the first drive of Week 2 against Washington on Thursday Night Football and didn't come back till Week 13. Jayden Reed missed essentially Week 2 and then came back in Week 13. That's a large chunk of the season. Christian Watson, who tore his ACL the year prior in the regular season finale against Chicago, missed the first 6 games of the season. In the aforementioned Tucker Kraft, halfway point, tore an ACL, done. I know he's not a wide receiver, but he's a pass catcher, and he was certainly the focal point of the offense up until he tore his ACL. And so there's a lot of mouths to feed in this offense for Green Bay, especially in the passing game. But it surprised me more that this was a wide receiver room specifically that was not healthy start to finish, that missed its number one wide receiver in Christian Watson for the first 6 games, that missed Jayden Reed for, we could call a spade and say about 3/4 of the regular season, that it missed Jayden Reed. And normally you would think, oh, those are opportunities for to put your first-round pick as a bigger part of the blueprint, as a bigger part of the game plan. And for whatever reason, and I'm not blaming them necessarily, but it is puzzling, Matt LaFleur and company just didn't do it. The Packers did what they usually do anyways, which is bring about these rookie pass catchers really, really, really slowly and not flood their lap with too much. Although I think Matthew Golden certainly should have played a bigger role and had a bigger role, especially in those overlapping weeks where there was no Reed and no Watson, and then no Reed and no Tucker Kraft, but Watson was back in the fold after missing the first 6 games of the season. This was not a perfect picture for Green Bay by any stretch of the imagination. If you want to zoom things out and talk about injuries on the whole, right? You talk about Micah Parsons, Devontae Wyatt, Tucker Kraft, but even focusing in on the offense and the skill position players, it was not a year where you had Christian Watson, Jayden Reed, Tucker Kraft for all 17 games, and it's like, if that were the case, it'd be easier to look at the Matthew Golden situation and say, he kind of just had to work his way into things, and yes, he's a first-round pick, but this was a loaded core of weapons for Jordan Love to work with at his disposal. It is when they're all on the field. All 3, Watson, Reed, Kraft, missed significant time, and Green Bay still couldn't find a way to get Matthew Golden more involved. And so I didn't look at NFL.com's rankings, ESPN.com's rankings, and see that they have the Packers in the cellar or damn near close to it if you look at ESPN's rankings for their rookie draft class impact on the teams that they played for in year one. I did not look at it and think doom and gloom. I looked at it and said, Green Bay better figure out a damn way to get Matthew Golden the ball more, to feature him more in year 2, because I see a player where the talent is there, it is oozing, and they just didn't incorporate him as much as I thought they would in year 1. And what made it more bizarre were the injuries along the way, as I mentioned. And this was the case with, Savion Williams, but to a lesser degree. Savion Williams was a 3rd-round pick. It's not a 6th, 7th round, take a flyer on a guy, stash him away, we like a couple traits, let's see what we have. Draft pick. They used a 3rd-round pick on Savion Williams after using a 1st-round pick on a wide receiver as well. Now, Savion Williams missed some time to end the year due to injury, but in 12 games this year, he had 10 total targets. And you can look at it and say, wow, he had 10 targets, 10 receptions. Pretty good. Most of it were those jet motion, orbit motion, quick hitters, pop passes, things of that nature. There is one play, I'm trying to remember if Green Bay was tied or trailing. It was late in the fourth quarter. I'm pretty sure they were down. I don't think it was a tie game. But late in the fourth quarter against the Giants on a 3rd and 10, Jordan Love went to Savion Williams. It was like a 30-plus yard pass play down the field, and it's pretty much the only reception I remember of Savion Williams where he was targeted vertically down the field. A wide receiver out of TCU who was known for his flashy speed and his ability to separate from the secondary. And Green Bay just didn't use him in that fashion in his rookie year and hardly used him at all. 10 targets in 12 games for Savion Williams. To a lesser degree than Matthew Golden, Savion Williams needs to be incorporated more in year 2. His main role as a rookie was a kick returner, and it was pretty underwhelming seeing Savion Williams, the kick returner. It didn't really pack a punch. So like Matthew Golden, I don't look at these NFL.com rankings. I don't look at what ESPN wrote up and think, oh my gosh, they drafted 2 wide receivers round 1 and round 3, and both are horrible, both are bust. It's to be determined for Savion Williams. We don't know. It's inconclusive. We don't have enough evidence at our disposal to come to a concrete conclusion on what Savion Williams is or isn't as a wide receiver in the NFL. It's similar with Matthew Golden, but we saw a little bit more. And I'm going down a trail with Golden where I believe the proof is in the pudding. He just needs to get fed more. And so it sucks seeing that Green Bay's rookie draft class rankings are so dang low. But it makes sense. And if you want to, we can funnel in, by the way, it is Mitch. I'm on YouTube. Please subscribe if you haven't already. Always appreciative of all the support. We can funnel in Anthony Belton, a second-round pick who played in 14 games and started 7 and primarily featured at right guard. Anthony Belton this year, folks, logged 487 snaps as a second-round rookie out of North Carolina State, 392. So, again, I don't want to drown you with numbers, but for Anthony Belton, think of it this way, simple ones. Started 7 games, pretty good, second-round rookie. Played 487 snaps, 392 came at right guard. Now, coming out of North Carolina State, 4 years, Anthony Belton played 40 games, started 32 at left tackle. And so playing and starting at right guard in 7 games as a rookie, he was playing out of position. Now, we know when the Packers drafted Belton in the second round, it was reported fairly early on. The Packers kind of see him as a hybrid. They see versatility. Yes, they see a left tackle at North Carolina State, but Green Bay also sees someone that it could plug in at guard, whether that be left guard or right guard. And Anthony Belton saw the bulk of his snaps at right guard, which I don't think it was a disaster. There weren't a ton of moments. Obviously, there were some, and there's rookie growing pains. And really, as a whole, the offensive line just wasn't up to the Packers' standard when we consider how Packers' offensive lines typically look. But few and far between were the moments where it was like, oh my gosh, what is Anthony Belton doing? There were some, I remember week 2 against Washington, when I don't think he started at right guard, but then got plugged in. Was he at right guard or right tackle? Because Zach Tom went out and Jordan Morgan was at one of those spots too. But there were some look-away moments, some look-away reps from Anthony Belton. But as he got more and more comfortable at right guard and more settled in, it looked more and more natural for him. So it's hard to look at these rankings that we see and think that they said something about Anthony Belton in one of them. I forget what the summary was. It was something about playing 14 games, starting 7, but it was it wasn't like brilliant from Anthony Belton. And I'm like, well, he's playing out of position. Now, if this offseason he's getting first-team reps consistently at right guard, and you would think, whatever happens with Sean Ryan, that's kind of hanging in the balance here. But if Sean Ryan is re-signed by Green Bay this offseason, it very well could be to play center, not right guard. There's a very good chance Anthony Belton is your starting right guard week 1 next year. And you have Jordan Morgan at left tackle, and you have Aaron Banks at left guard, and you have TBD at center, Belton at right guard, and then Zach Tom at right tackle. And I think these reps as a rookie were obviously incredibly valuable and important to him for, again, someone who started 32 games but at left tackle in college, and now you're switching him to a completely different position on the opposite side of the line. It's not left tackle to right tackle, it's left tackle to right guard. And so I didn't look at anything Anthony Belton did as a rookie and think, oh, what a disaster pick, horrible, bust, dud. No. It's getting comfortable playing a new position and starting 7 games, including a playoff game against Chicago, where the offensive line I thought was fine in the first half and then pretty damn bad in the second half, but it wasn't just Belton. It wasn't just one offensive lineman. It was a group effort that displayed a head-scratching result in the final 30 minutes against the Bears in the postseason game. I hate even bringing that game up. And then if we want to finish up by trickling down, just because I think it's important to note, these rankings for NFL.com, ESPN, a lot of people just kind of rightfully so saying the draft class for Green Bay last year just didn't have an impact in year one. And it's fair to come to that summary. Like Matthew Golden's numbers, you don't realize it, but until you see it, weeks 8 through 18, 11 receptions, 112 yards, no touchdowns. It took until the playoff game for him to have his first touchdown. And again, I didn't look at it. I don't think many people did. Let me know what you guys and gals think, but I don't believe many people looked at Matthew Golden's rookie season and blamed him for it. It was the Packers just chose not to use him more. Same with Savion Williams when he was healthy. He was basically stashed away at kick return, and it was like, all right, just focus on that for this year. And then Anthony Belton, if not for injuries, is probably just a depth piece. But then you get to the 4th round, the 5th round, and Green Bay goes edge rusher back-to-back with Baron Sorrell and Colin Oliver. Well, Colin Oliver is TBD. It's incomplete. It's not applicable if you want to talk about his rookie season and how you would grade it. He was on the shelf for pretty much the entire season up until the last couple games. So we don't know what they have in Colin Oliver. Now, Baron Sorrell, on the other hand, 4th-round pick out of Texas, healthy for most of the season. There was a brief little hiccup with a knee sprain I think that was coming out of training camp and entering the season, right? But Baron Sorrell played in 14 games, which when you think about it, you're like, wow, he played in 14 games. You know, that's a pretty substantial amount. He only logged 178 snaps. And so we don't know what they have in Baron Sorrell. Now, what happens this offseason with Rashawn Gary? Are they going to pick up the 5th-year option for Lucas Van Ness? Micah Parsons expects to be back the first month of the season, but is not going to be ready week 1. I say this to look at Baron Sorrell. Opportunity could come knocking pretty early on in the season. Will he have those chances? Will he capitalize? Same for Colin Oliver. Could have more opportunities early in the season to prove his worth than he will later on in the season, depending on the Micah Parsons timeline. And you know, it could be more opportunities if more injuries pop up. But when I look at Baron Sorrell and Colin Oliver, it's the same as all these other guys in the Packers rookie draft class. It's not, oh, horrible pick. What was Green Bay thinking? Can't believe Goody did that. These two are bust. Get rid of them. It's not that at all. It's, I don't know. Like, I feel pretty good saying Golden's going to be a damn good wide receiver. They just need to feature him more. Christian Watson's your number 1 wide receiver. Tucker Kraft's a stud. But if Romeo Doubs is signing elsewhere, Reed and Wicks are both playing on expiring rookie deals, Matthew Golden was your 1st-round pick. Figure it out. Like, he showed you when you threw him the ball, pretty dynamic, can make plays, can get separation really consistently. With Belton, I like the sample size. I like the workload in his rookie season. Keep building off it, especially if you're going to slot him in at right guard, because we got to believe 1st-round pick Jordan Morgan from the year before, entering year 3, primarily played left tackle in college at Arizona, is going to get that shot to be the premier blindside blocker for Jordan Love in 2026. But if you're Anthony Belton, you got those reps at right guard under your belt, and it should make him more comfortable playing at that position in year 2. Savion Williams, TBD. They didn't use him when he was healthy. Baron Sorrell, TBD. Role wasn't big enough. Colin Oliver, TBD. Was on the shelf due to injury most of the season. And so, yes, it's somewhat fair. I'm not going to say it is fair. It is somewhat fair to look at Green Bay's picks from last April and conclude that year 1 for that class, less than ideal. There was really no significant impact felt outside of Golden's performance in the playoffs against Chicago, 4 catches, 84 yards, and a touchdown on a play where it was just a quick little outlet pass to Matthew Golden, and he made it work for the touchdown. Spinning, hurdling, juking, quite literally all 3 of those things to get into the end zone against the Bears. That was really the most significant impact that any Packers rookie had this year. And I know we can include guys like Warren Brinson and Nazir Stackhouse, who was an undrafted free agent that the Packers added. Both played a decent amount of snaps on the interior of the defensive line. But outside of Golden's playoff performance, not much to really write home about with this rookie draft class. But it is important and critical and vital to note that the lack of impact that was felt largely came from injuries with Colin Oliver and Savion Williams at the end of the year, and just lack of opportunity. When you look at Matthew Golden, I would put Savion Williams in that group as well, and Barron Sorrell. And so to summarize that the Packers draft class is full of bust is a pretty gross exaggeration for anyone who has that mindset. At best, for most of them right now, it can be graded as TBD. For Golden, for Belton, for Williams, for Sorrell, for Oliver, who could all have bigger roles in 2026. And when I'm really honing in on those first two selections, and Matthew Golden and Anthony Belton should certainly have bigger roles in 2026. So it's a tough pill to swallow as a Packers fan, seeing that this draft class got rated quite literally the worst in the NFL, according to the impact it had on their team. But it's important to put a little asterisk next to it, because for almost every single one of these players, it was not, man, they had ample opportunity and just didn't do a dang thing. It was the exact opposite, especially for Golden. When he got his number called, he made plays. Those opportunities were just few and far between. Same for Savion Williams. You know, you drafted Savion Williams to be a vertical threat, and he was used mostly as a horizontal threat as a rookie in all this jet orbit motion and quick little touch passes and things of that nature. It'll be important and critical for Green Bay because you're talking about a team that will not have the financial resources to swing big in free agency. It is a team in Green Bay that is without a first-round pick because of the Micah Parsons trade, which is totally fine. You do that trade 100 times out of 100 if you have to go back and do it. But the reason I bring that up is Green Bay doesn't have a lot of resources to add impact players this year when you talk about not having a first-round pick, not having a lot of spending in free agency. So it'll need to make sure players like Golden and Belton and Sorrell and Savion Williams take those steps in development and get those opportunities on a more filled-up plate in 2026. We'll see if it happens. Let me know what you guys and gals think. Always appreciative of all the support. It is Mitch. I'm on YouTube. Click the subscribe button. Takes 2 seconds to do so. Costs you nothing. Helps me immensely as I build things up. We'll see you next time.